My name is Mmangaliso Nzuza. I'm a self-taught visual artist. I'm from Guanangoma, but I live in Durban, currently working in Cape Town. So I've always loved drawing ever since I was very, very young. My mom always told me that I was drawing in like their passports and around the house. And I think both of my parents noticed the talent early on. So they'd always try and provide as many coloring books and drawing books as much as possible. I was inspired by multiple artists in the Cubist movement. So you have Picasso and Braque, and I would definitely like to mention Cezanne as well. Their work is definitely more fractional if you take a look at the artworks, especially late in the years. Another artist I'm also influenced by is Lynette Yadom-Bochaye. Hers is definitely more of using color theory in her works. She uses muted colors in order to convey the feeling throughout her artworks. So together with the Cubists and Lynette, I try to show that in my artworks. The current themes, they're pretty much reoccurring from when I was first starting, so it definitely still is surrounding my anxiety, social anxiety, and dissociation, but I was trying to bring more of a positive aspect to it, and also just trying to find the light. You know, when you're with like family and friends and you almost get like that feeling of like, I feel so much better after being around them. For example, so that piece is called The Sun Will Rise Again. It definitely relates to being around, let's say, your family or friends. Like even if you're feeling down or something's negatively impacting you, but just being around a support system, you always know that you can always come back stronger. I think there's also a reference to the sunflowers in that image, so I always try to bring in like small tokens or items that will try and display what I'm trying to show in the artwork. So my process for most of my artworks is I try to walk around the city or wherever I am, just to try and soak up as much as what's happening around me as much as possible. Just watching people interact. Say if someone's just like chilling by like the beach by themselves, you know, in their own solitude, reading a book, or if I just see people once I'm like walking around the Table Mountain hiking areas. You're also just surrounded by like the colors, like the color palettes is just insane. Like if you go to the hiking areas, like you're surrounded by so much foliage, the greens and the oranges and the blues. So even with my residency in Cologne, like the architecture and the buildings, like the pastels is just completely different in comparison to what you'd find here in South Africa. I do appreciate the fact that I'm able to be influenced by not only just people, but just whatever is around me. The materials that I use is mostly cotton or linen, canvas, and the techniques it was more of like an experiment or like by accident in a way, because back in Durban, I would find myself often making mistakes in the artworks, and I wouldn't take the canvas off, I would just paint over it again, which gave it this texture and the luminosity that you would often see in the artworks, and that kind of stuck throughout. So now I don't paint over it, but I just make sure that the oil paint is quite thick when I do paint on the canvas, so it does give it its texture. and the gloss that I do like. Approaching color and composition in my painting is quite hard to explain. It just happens. I want to say it just happens because I come here every day. Like, even if I don't know what I'm going to paint, I just stand in front of the canvas and wondering, like, what am I going to paint today? Like, if it comes to mind, it comes to mind, you know, type of thing. What's important for me to try and represent black figures in my work, especially when I relate to cubism. When you look at those cubist masters, they did take influence from your African tribal masks. So in a way, for me, it's a way of reclaiming that, especially within my culture and my identity as an African artist.